Unbelievable blind date twist. Paralyzed CEO's hidden joy exposed by a remarkable mechanic. Max stared down at his lap, fingers brushing against the polished wood of the diner table, the clamor and chaos of the surrounding clientele all but drowned out by the realization that this was his life now. A former CEO, the pinnacle of success, reduced to a paralyzed shell, filled with regret and anxiety. He had once made decisions that moved markets, bought companies, changed lives. Now he negotiated the treachery of ordinary dining fare and false smiles. Jenna, his sister's blind date suggestion, had offered an intriguing reprieve. But how would a mechanic and artist of oil and steel ever understand the intricacies of a shattered past? As Jenna laughed, recounting boisterous stories of her family's garage, the grease-stained adventures and the stubborn old engines that wouldn't quit, Max felt a tingle of something he hadn't experienced in years. A sense of ease washed over him, but lurking beneath it was the familiar weight of societal expectations still etched in his mind. Could he truly invest in this moment, or was there another ticking clock waiting in the shadows? Before he could dive deeper into his thoughts, the whirlwind conversation shifted. Jenna casually mentioned an old rival of hers, an auto shop that hadn't been doing well. She said it with a hint of sadness, but Max felt his stomach drop as the pieces slowly came together. Through buried memories, Max had made a quiet investment in that very shop, one that would undermine Jenna's family legacy. His heart raced. The very resonance of her laughter blurred against the stark realization he was about to become the villain in her narrative. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Max's mind raced, replaying segments of their conversation, weighing his dreams against the harm he had unknowingly inflicted. Fighting the urge to speak, he observed her sparkling eyes dimming, her laughter fading into a cautious gaze. Did you know that auto shop's owner is holding on by a thread? Jenna's voice was steady, but her expression betrayed her tightening tone, lined with disbelief. Do you have something to do with that? A silence hung thick, their initial bond hanging by a fraying thread. Gripped by moral collapse, a wave of tension crashed inside of him. Right and wrong blurred into a labyrinth of betrayal. Would she still see him as the man behind the polished suit, or would it all come crashing down? His thoughts spiraled, doubt and tension consumed him. He could feel each heartbeat reverberate within the confines of his being as Jenna's face transformed, disappointment flooding her once playful demeanor. The fear of losing her gnawed at him, but how could he redeem himself in her eyes? As the conversation teetered on the brink of confrontation, Max's desperation surfaced, an extraordinary engineering talent masked in shame. What if he offered a lifeline, a plan to transform her garage into something extraordinary? He opened his mouth, ready to verbalize his hidden truth, knowing it might be their only chance at bridging the gaping chasm between them, but just before he could release the words, an unexpected vibration from his phone interrupted him, sending adrenaline surging through his veins. Max's sister's name flashed on the screen, the call promising to change everything again. What could it be now? Would it seal their fate or unlock a new opportunity? Max's breath hitched as he stared at the phone, the names pulsating like a heart caught in a vice. His sister's calls typically heralded urgency, and today was no exception. He felt Jenna's gaze on him, weighted with curiosity and concern, the gravity of their earlier interaction clawing at his conscience. Sorry, I need to take this, he murmured, more to himself than to her. With a trembling hand, he navigated to accept the call, bracing for whatever tidal wave his sister had in store. Max? It's urgent. Her voice cut through the din of the diner, urgent and laced with a hint of panic. Have you been keeping tabs on the auto shop you invested in? They're in trouble. I heard from a friend who worked their financial problems, layoffs, it's bad. You need to do something. The world around him blurred out as he absorbed her words. This was not simply business for him anymore, it was Jenna's family legacy, her identity intertwined with the grind and grease of that very garage. He felt a cold sweat break out across his brow, the unease long buried bubbled to the surface, a reminder that his apathy had consequences. "Are you okay?" His sister's voice broke through his tumultuous thoughts. "Max?" I'm fine," he managed to reply, though the weight of his deception felt heavier than a lead coat. How could he have let this happen? The auto shop wasn't just an investment, it was a personal affront to Jenna's dreams. Dismantling her sense of worth was something he never intended. "Listen," he said, swallowing hard, "I have to call you back. There's something I need to do." He ended the call, feeling Jenna's penetrating gaze intensifying. "What was that all about?" she asked, an uncharacteristic tension in her voice. Swallowing the lump in his throat, Max realized he didn't want to destroy what fragile connection they had formed. But he was staring into the abyss of his ambition, and that ambition had clouded his vision. Was it too late to pivot? He hesitated, grappling with apologetic instincts and the desire to regain some measure of integrity. "There's something I need to talk to you about." Her brow furrowed, suspicion flaring in her eyes. "You mean about the shop?" "Max, are you in some kind of trouble?" "No. At least, not the kind you think." He exhaled slowly, letting the reality of the moment settle in. "I was an investor in that shop. I didn't know it was yours until just now." The revelation hung between them, threaded with disbelief. Momentarily stunned, she searched his expression, her demeanor oscillating precariously between anger and confusion. Max could almost hear the wheels turning in her mind, unraveling the layers of trust they had built. "Why would you do something like that?" she demanded, voice cracking like ice. "Do you want to take down my family?" "No. I wanted to help them," he began, but the words fell flat, missing the target of conviction. As she clenched her jaw, a fire lit in her eyes, an unyielding passion. "Help? You're investing in their downfall." In that moment, he recognized the magnitude of his mistake. The familiar whirlwind of his professional life had spiraled into a grittier terrain, one littered with personal stakes. This was not just about numbers on a balance sheet anymore, it was about connection, loyalty, and remorse. Yet, instead of growing despondent, he let the determination build within him. He couldn't change the past, but he could pave a new road forward. "Listen, let me help you. We can fix this together. I know things about business you don't have to go down with this ship." His voice bore the weight of sincerity. He was no longer the man wrapped in a cocoon of wealth and status. The man before her was a fractured version determined to redeem himself not just for Jenna, but for his own reawakened spirit. Jenna's expression softened slightly, curiosity now mingling with her skepticism. "How exactly?" As their eyes locked, the possibility of collaboration crackled in the air like static electricity. Max took a breath, ready to share a plan that might just forge a new legacy for both of them. But first, he needed to confront his own shame and articulate the vision trapped inside him, the vision that had been obscured by his own past failures. Something outside his control began to unfurl inside him, a sense of purpose, and he nodded with growing confidence. "I'll tell you how, but first, I need to come clean about everything." The firm intentions began to churn, a complexity of feelings, fear and hope, all whispered in the space they occupied. Jenna's brow relaxed, interest peaked, but she still hesitated, the stakes of trust hanging supremely high. "What are you really willing to do?" she asked, the weight of the question settling. The moment had come to face what he had buried for too long, both inside and outside of his past. Max leaned in, lowering his voice, ready to offer more than just business acumen. Would she take the leap with him, or would their separate trajectories lead them further apart? The tension in the air breathed life into new possibilities, the clash of resilience against a backdrop of uncertainty. How far could they go together, and would they emerge from the ashes of betrayal transformed, or with harsher lessons imprinted on their lives? Max felt the air grow taut between them, a palpable force pushing against the walls of understanding he desperately wanted to build. His resolve strengthened as he weighed the words in his mind, recalling both his intention and his fear, the two opposing forces battling for dominion over his conscience. "Jenna," he began, each syllable a careful negotiation of the tangled trust between them. "I had no idea this was your family's shop. I saw numbers, potential, an opportunity to grow my portfolio. I ignored the human element. Her piercing gaze bore into him, searching for sincerity amid the rubble of his past missteps. So you were willing to risk everything for profit? Even my family's legacy? Her voice quaked slightly, but there was an undercurrent of determination that ignited something in him. I was blind, he admitted, his voice steadying as his self-awareness deepened. But I want to change that. I refuse to let this investment become another monument to my mistakes. I want to learn. I want to help. The silence between them thickened, a fragile truce forming at the crossroads of hurt and hope. Jenna's expression fluctuated between skepticism and cautious optimism. It was as if she stood on the edge of a precipice, contemplating the leap that could either bind them or destroy what was left of their relationship. Max took a calculated risk, leaning into her vulnerability. Tell me everything you know about the shop where it stands, the numbers, the employees. I need a comprehensive understanding. We'll handle this as partners, not adversaries. Jenna's brows furrowed as if she wrestled with the notion. You think it's that easy? You can't just throw money at a problem and expect it to fix itself. There are people involved here, families tied to this business. Their livelihoods are at stake. I know, he replied, nodding emphatically. And I want to build something sustainable. It's not just about saving a shop, it's about creating a future that honors what it represents for you and your family. As she began to articulate the issues, cash flow worries, overdue payments, and the looming threat of layoffs, Max noticed something shift within her. The walls she had fortified around her disappointment started to tremble, giving way to something that resembled collaboration. He felt invigorated, a remarkable energy surging through him. The entrepreneur in him was awakening to new possibilities. Max realized he needed to act decisively if he wanted to keep this momentum. Let us set up a meeting with the current manager, he suggested. I'll bring in fresh ideas, but I also want to listen. Understand the challenges from the ground level. We need to access all perspectives. Jenna hesitated, her fingertips brushing against the edge of the table, a sign of her internal conflict. You really believe we can do this together? I do, he replied, his voice gaining an urgency that reverberated through him. The old Max may have seen this as just a business transaction, but I see this as a chance to change everything for both of us. I want us to bring life back to that shop. Let us turn the tide. She inhaled sharply, still apprehensive, but something flickered in her eyes, a glimmer of hope that perhaps they may just foster a connection stronger than had been severed. As they plotted immediate next steps, Max felt an awakening, a glimpse into an identity he long neglected. His previous life of detachment and privilege felt insufficient in the face of this new reality, a reality intertwined with Jenna's passion and the grit of the auto shop's workforce. It felt far more meaningful than the sterile accolades of his past, yet as they devised a plan, Max's mind wrestled with uncertainty. The stakes were rising, and as the clock ticked, so did the pressure. What if they failed? What if he stumbled again, this time with the weight of an entire legacy on his shoulders? Emotion coiled tightly around his heart, but he disregarded it, focusing instead on the fresh resolve bubbling within. He could rewrite this narrative, he could shape a legacy worth standing beside. I'm ready to meet them, he declared, but there's one more thing. Jenna looked at him, a question marking the tension that held both fear and anticipation. I need you to believe in me, he said, dropping the curtain on the last vestiges of his former self. This is as much my battle as it is yours. Will you let me in? As she mulled over his words, Max's stomach churned with the gravity of what came next. He could see the choice before her, a turning point that could bind them closer or threaten everything once more. Would she take the leap of faith? Or would doubtful shadows linger over them, keeping their potential hostage? In that moment, a door creaked open in his mind. An opportunity for understanding lay ahead, but it was shrouded in uncertainty and doubt, as he awaited the affirmation that could alter the course of their intertwined fates. Max fought to maintain his steady demeanor as Jenna's contemplation stretched painfully between them. He sensed her weighing his sincerity against a history littered with broken promises and corporate greed. But hope flickered in her eyes, and he could not let that light extinguish. Let us meet tomorrow, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if she was afraid to disturb the fragile balance forming between them. With Mark, the shop manager. He knows every inch of that place, but you'll need to win him over. He nodded, a sense of determination solidifying his resolve. I'll take the time to listen, to understand, he promised, his voice firm. No shortcuts this time. An immediate plan ignited their conversation, diving deep into operational details, cash flow statements, and the emotional landscapes of the employees. Max scribbled notes, mentally cataloging concerns that went beyond numbers. Each statistic revealed a story of human lives and commitments. In the quiet moments of their discussion, as Jenna laid bare the struggles of those affected, Max felt a stirring within him, a realization dawning that a deeper connection awaited him beyond mere business metrics. This was personal, this was Jenna's legacy. The meeting arrived sooner than he anticipated, but time felt fluid. He stood in front of the faded brick exterior of the shop, heart thrumming wildly. He inhaled deeply, determined to quell the rising tide of anxiety swirling within. It was time to confront not just Jenna's world, but parts of himself he had long shunned as he entered, the clatter of tools and the scent of motor oil wrapped around him like an old coat. Any initial intimidation transformed into an odd sense of belonging. He watched the employees exchange greetings, each banter a testament to their shared struggles and triumphs. Max? Jenna's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She led him to a room at the back, where Mark was reviewing shipment orders, his brow furrowed in concentration. Thanks for making time, Mark, he said, extending a hand. I'm eager to hear how we can work together to improve things around here. Mark scrutinized him briefly before meeting his handshake with cautious acceptance. This shop isn't just a business, it's a family. I hope you understand that, he replied, a steady warning lacing his tone. Max met Mark's gaze, intent and resolute. I do. And I respect that. I want to ensure that whatever decisions we make, they honor that family. As he listened to Mark's perspective on existing issues, supply chain delays, managerial inefficiencies, and the palpable anxiety hovering over the workers, Max uncovered unexpected insights. Each recounting revealed distinct attributes that called for a transformation, not just in business operations but in the underlying cooperation required to pull the shop back from the brink. Yet, somewhere in the recesses of his mind, doubt gnawed at him. He was learning, yes, but was it enough? He sketched a few ideas on paper, but panic tightened his chest when he contemplated their implementation. Could he, a man historically accustomed to the sleek world of high stakes and easy solutions, truly enact change rooted in empathy? He called upon his resolve to approach this with integrity. Mark, he cautioned, looking around at Jenna as well, I don't plan to throw money at problems. I want to brainstorm innovative solutions that include everyone's input. Skepticism lingered in Mark's posture, but there was a glimmer of curiosity too. The discussion sharpened, ideas flowed, dissent surfaced, but it was a vibrant exchange filled with possibility. Max felt something shifting within him, a realization blossoming that perhaps he had a talent for unearthing potential in others, one he hadn't known existed until now. After the meeting, he and Jenna stepped outside into the waning sunshine. You did well, she acknowledged, a hint of admiration in her voice. For them, yes, he replied, feeling the burden of responsibility settle heavily upon him. But what about us? She frowned, pondering the question. What do you mean? There's still so much to work through. I want to be part of this community, to gain everyone's trust. As Max awaited her response, uncertainty crawled back. He suddenly felt the weight of the challenge ahead. If he wanted to forge a future here, he needed to confront not only external obstacles but the shadows of his past failures. Would trust, once broken, ever be completely rebuilt? And would he find the strength to navigate the emotional complexities he hadn't anticipated? In that moment, his inner resolve solidified like concrete. Max knew the stakes were rising, the moment of truth had come. As weekend plans beckoned and tension coiled, a confrontation with his past loomed just beyond the horizon. What would he uncover as he delved deeper into the very essence of what made them himself and Jenna whole? Max spent the rest of the afternoon in a haze of uncertainty, part of him still buzzing from the energy of the meeting. The initial exhilaration of promising collaboration faded into a gnawing self-doubt. As he sat at his cluttered desk later that evening, the numbers on the spreadsheets blurred together, symbols of his failure to translate connection into actionable strategy. What if his eagerness to make a difference turned into a well-intentioned disaster? With a deep sigh, he pushed the papers aside, letting his fingers trace the cool surface of his laptop. Perhaps the answers he sought were not confined to data but lay in the persuasive nature of genuine relationships. Could he really take the time to understand this community, or were his aspirations merely a figment of desperation to redeem his past? He recalled Jenna's voice, warm yet tinged with caution. Had she sensed his struggle? Did she believe he could really change? With newfound resolve, Max picked up his phone to schedule a follow-up meeting with Mark. It was crucial he showed this wasn't just a passing interest but a commitment to their cause. The stakes were too high to waver. The moment spent drafting a transparent email to Mark sparked a flicker of motivation within him. He outlined how the shop could implement actionable strategies that honored their family dynamic while addressing the bottlenecks stifling their potential. In each word he typed, he felt the weight of the community's trust resting on his shoulders. After sending the email, an unsettling sense of vulnerability washed over him. Was he overstepping? Daring to reshape the ambitions of people entrenched in their ways? He had to confront that fear and turn it into a strength. Fresh ideas should never stifle tradition. Instead, they should intertwine with the lived experiences of the employees who had dedicated their lives to the shop. That night, Max closed his eyes, staring at the ceiling as thoughts streamed through his mind. He recalled the camaraderie that sparked vibrant discussions with Mark. Those men and women were not just numbers on a page, they were living stories filled with aspirations. He saw their determination, but he also recognized their distress. There were layers to this community that he had yet to unravel and confront. The following morning, he stepped back into the shop, the air buzzing with a sense of anticipation. Mark greeted him with a nod, the skepticism still slightly shadowing his expression but not extinguishing the flicker of curiosity. "Did you think more about it?" Mark asked, crossing his arms expectantly, leaning into the conversation rather than stepping back. "Yes," Max replied, excitement fueling his response. "We need to design a framework for our discussions. What if we implemented team brainstorming sessions? Gather everyone's thoughts on what's keeping us from meeting our goals." To his surprise, Mark nodded, his arms relaxing slightly. "Let us see what the rest say." The day unfolded with a chain of communal discussions, employees meeting in small groups, sharing ideas that felt like whispers bubbling to the surface. What struck Max was how everyone hesitated at first, eyes flickering nervously over to Mark as they considered their place in the conversation. Yet, as trust began to build, their voices grew stronger, ideas ignited like fireworks. Max watched the transformation with keen interest. These were not just mechanics or shop hands, they were innovators, each laden with potential waiting for a catalyst. Their eyes sparkled with the thrill of engagement, and Max felt a stirring within himself, a burgeoning belief that he could indeed foster this change. Yet as the day wore on, the looming shadow of his past failures darkened his spirits. Was he genuinely leading a transformation, or simply mumbling mindlessly, hastily rebuilding what he feared might crumble again? In the midst of this burgeoning success, Max's conscience flared a reminder of the stakes, the disappointment he could bring upon this family if he faltered. This was more than a project, this was about lives intertwined with expectations and hope. As employees began to lay out their innovative concepts, the air shifted, igniting something fiery within him. This was his moment of potential, yet the weight of his own past mistakes clawed at him. He would have to reconcile these feelings if he wanted to break free from the shackles of expectation he had placed upon himself. Can he genuinely lead this transformation without succumbing to the ghosts of his past? The day concluded with a pulse of energy, hope budding amidst uncertainty, but echoes of doubt remained. In the silence of his car, resting his fingertips against the steering wheel, a surge of ambition filled him. The hard part was just beginning. His next move would be crucial. Was he ready to expose the vulnerable aspects of himself that could lead to genuine connection? Perhaps the most formidable adversary was not Mark or the employees but the lingering self-doubt that threatened to unravel everything. Max took a deep breath, determination coursing through him, haunted yet resolute, for within that struggle lay the potential for something transformative. What awaited him when he fully opened the doors to the shadows of his past? Max awoke to the distant sound of laughter filtering through the open windows. It quickly became the backdrop against which he wrestled with the unfamiliar sensations of hope and fear coursing through him. Today, he grappled with a choice that could either reinforce his nascent steps toward transformation or unravel the fragile web he had woven so far that he arrived at the shop earlier than usual, the morning sun casting a welcoming glow around the dimly lit space. With only the familiar hum of machinery for company, he felt the weight of responsibility settle like a warm quilt around his shoulders. This was it. Today marked their second brainstorming session, a chance to solidify the momentum he had ignited, but also a risk of exposing his vulnerabilities to the very people he sought to inspire. As he mentally rehearsed his opening remarks, he remembered why he had been drawn to this endeavor in the first place. Each team member brought unique strengths and stories that resonated with the essence of his vision. But would they still see value in his leadership, or would they perceive him as a mere intruder in their tightly knit world? By the time the employees began to trickle in, worry twined itself around his thoughts. Like flowers responding to sunlight, he hoped their engagement would bloom again. Sitting at the head of the table felt daunting, the collective gaze of his coworkers bore down on him. Every eye flickered between curiosity and skepticism, and he struggled to move past them, to reach deeper into what brought everyone together. "Welcome back, everyone." His voice emerged with a practiced ease, but inside, nerves danced chaotically. "I know our last session sparked some solid ideas, and I'm eager to hear what everyone has thought about since. This isn't just about correction, it's about growth together." Max aimed his focus on a younger mechanic named Lisa, who had contributed thoughtful insights previously. As she met his gaze cautiously, he sensed the pressure of expectation mounting like a physical weight. Taking a breath, he leaned forward slightly, inviting her to speak. "I've had some ideas about our workflow," Lisa began, her voice catching ever so slightly, "but I'm not sure they'll hold up against what you and Mark want." Time felt distorted as silence pooled in the room, and Max noticed others shifting uneasily. His instincts kicked in. This was not about his vision but the voices that were often drowned out. "Let us not approach this as a pass-fail evaluation," he said, urging authenticity. "Here, every contribution counts. What if we flipped that nervousness on its head? What would you create if you knew it couldn't fail?" With those words, a subtle shift rippled through the group. Gradually, Lisa stood taller, emboldened, and shared her insights, igniting a wave of dialogue. Her confidence spilled over to others, coaxing forth ideas and igniting discussions that felt electric. Yet, deep within, Max felt an awareness tugging at the edges of his mind. What if their shared enthusiasm made him vulnerable? What if he faltered? Exposing himself emotionally meant risking the trust that had been carefully cultivated. While their synergy strengthened, so too did the specter of self-doubt whisper its discontent. As they ventured deeper into the session, individuals like Mark interjected with their doubts, recalling Max's past stumbles, an unguarded confrontation echoing through his mind. Each critique felt akin to a taut string ready to snap. But instead of crumbling, he embraced the tension, using it to fuel his remarks. "I understand. We're all trying something new here, and that includes me. What I need now is your honesty, even when it feels uncomfortable." By encouraging vulnerability, Max uncovered a hidden truth within him. He didn't have to bear the burdens of leadership alone. That realization sparked something within him, igniting perspectives he hadn't fully embraced before. He noticed how their collective ideas began forming threads of a tapestry where his past failures no longer dictated the narrative. As the session wrapped up, the energy in the room was tangible. They were collectively stitched into a tapestry stronger than any individual piece. Yet his heart raced. A gap between the shared spirits in the room and his own lingering self-doubts lay unbridled. Could he maintain this momentum in the face of trials to come? Max felt a surge of determination but also recognized a raw doubt tinged with a sense of dread. What would happen when push really came to shove, when the cracks in his leadership style were no longer hidden behind the walls of initiative and creativity? Could he withstand the pressures of his past failures in the face of newfound trust? Finding himself caught between blooming confidence and the fraying edges of fear, he tightened his grip on the idea of shared vulnerability. Today had been a triumph, but tomorrow loomed like a distant storm. As he exited the shop, the weight of uncertainty pressed against him, almost suffocating. Was he more than just the architect of an exercise in teamwork? With the sun setting behind him, casting long shadows on his path, he resolved that he was determined to face whatever came next head-on. The cycle of introspection, growth, and confrontation had only just begun. But what would he do when the deeper problems began to surface? The next morning unfolded with an unsettling quietness. Max's mind was a whirlpool of unresolved questions. The previous day's session had ignited sparks of creativity and affirmation, yet it also peeled back layers of his insecurities. Driven by an urgent need for clarity, he resolved to take proactive steps. Arriving at the shop, he found himself inspecting every detail, from the organization of tools to the arrangement of workstations. These were tangible elements he could control, grounding him amidst internal chaos. He noticed how each mechanic's workspace told a story, from Mark's cluttered bench littered with unfinished projects to Lisa's neatly arranged tools, each strategically set for efficiency. Observing these elements shed light on the personalities behind them and reinforced the idea that a little individuality could launch collective excellence. As the day progressed, Max planned to initiate individual check-ins with his team. While brainstorming sessions sparked creativity, personal conversations built relationships. He knew that delving deeper into their experiences would not only foster trust but also reveal layers of talent that had yet to come to light. His first stop was Mark's workstation. Max knocked lightly on the frame of the doorway, seeing the distracted mechanic hunched over an engine. "Got a minute?" Mark nodded, setting down his tool. "Sure, what's up?" Max settled onto a nearby stool, aware of the unspoken tension that often hovered between them. "How are you feeling about the changes we're starting to make?" He chose his words carefully, mindful of Mark's previous critiques. "Honestly, it's been rough. I'm used to the way things were. Being good at fixing cars has always been my strong suit. But this new stuff? It's not as simple as turning a wrench." Frustration simmered slightly beneath Mark's surface, and Max recognized an opportunity to connect. "I can imagine. Change can feel overwhelming," Max said softly. "But I believe your expertise is invaluable. What if we integrated your skills into our new workflow?" Mark contemplated this, the lines on his forehead softening. "You think I could help lead some of that?" "It's just you're the boss, you know." Max shifted in his seat, feeling a surge of determination. Leadership isn't a title, it's about bringing out the best in others. If you can help the team feel more secure during this transformation, we can succeed together. As Mark considered the offer, Max felt a flicker of strength coursing through him. Encouraging others to take charge was also a chance for him to evolve. Their dialogue shifted from hesitance to discussion of novel ideas, the air thick with a burgeoning enthusiasm. Next, he approached Lisa. Her workspace hummed with occasional sound tools clicking against metal, the whir of machinery. When she noticed him, her eyes flashed with uncertainty, but he waved off any nervousness. "I wanted to hear your thoughts, especially after yesterday's session," he began, adopting a conversational tone. As they spoke, he quickly realized that her blend of creativity and technical knowledge could steer innovative improvements in workflow. Reinventing their approach would not just be about efficiency but also about enjoyment in the job. "Have you considered leading a skills workshop?" he suggested. "Sharing your insights could spark inspiration across the team." Lisa's face brightened, incredulity apparent. "You really think I can do that? Lead a workshop?" "Absolutely," he affirmed. "You're not just a mechanic, you're a fountain of knowledge. I'm excited to see how you can transform that into something beneficial for everyone." Max's interactions continued throughout the afternoon, each conversation unveiling hidden strengths within his team, reinforcing his realization that vulnerability made way for empowerment. The more they explored their capabilities, the more he understood that he hadn't just been a leader rebuilding a team. He was crafting a dynamic tapestry of talent. As the day drew to a close, Max stood in the shop, surveying the vibrant energy that enveloped the space. The initial act of reaching out had shifted something inside him, igniting a newfound self-awareness. Yet, beneath the rising confidence lay the tide of lingering ownership over his uncertain past. What if exposing others to leadership opened him up to criticism that cut deeper than before? Could he withstand scrutiny while simultaneously encouraging growth? The weight shifted back onto his shoulders like a heavy coat. As the sun descended, painting the shop in brilliant hues of orange and purple, Max stood at the precipice of realization his journey was far from over, and real challenges still lurked in the shadows. Determined to press on, Max reminded himself that every leap into the unknown incurred risks, but he had chosen this path for a reason. The question now loomed larger than ever: would he be ready when the shadows finally revealed their true forms? The following day brought a renewed energy to the shop, yet Max felt a simmering tension beneath the surface. He had unwittingly opened avenues for his team to explore leadership, but with that came the weight of his own burgeoning self-doubt. Would they respect him as they navigated this new equilibrium? With an air of cautious optimism, he started his day by sitting down with his team for a brief meeting. As they gathered, Max noticed subtle shifts in their demeanor, a mix of excitement and apprehension. Lisa, in particular, fidgeted, her mind likely swirling with ideas for the workshop they had discussed. Mark's face bore a contemplative look, signifying his own uncertainty about fitting into this new model of leadership. "Morning, everyone. I just wanted to take a minute to recognize how proud I am of the direction we're heading," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Our individual check-ins revealed not just concerns but a reservoir of potential and ideas. That means a lot as we aim to grow both the business and ourselves." The room buzzed, each team member exchanging glances that spoke volumes. There was a mixture of approval and reluctance. Was everyone genuinely motivated, or were they merely putting on brave faces? He continued, "I want to keep the momentum going, so I'd like us to set goals for how we can incorporate more input and creativity into our day-to-day operations. Lisa, for instance, let us nail down a date for that skills workshop." Lisa straightened at the mention of her name, her initial hesitation replaced with a spark of determination. "I've actually drafted a plan. I thought about focusing on troubleshooting techniques and how to enhance repair satisfaction overall." Impressed, Max smiled, but doubts gnawed at him. What if her workshop didn't resonate with others? What if they resisted her authority? The competing thoughts only deepened the creases of unease on his brow. "That sounds fantastic. Share it with us later. We can refine it together," he encouraged, feeding into her enthusiasm. Max turned his attention toward Mark. "And you've been mulling over how to facilitate transitions within the team, right?" He hoped to spark confidence, but he felt the tension thicken in the air. Mark shrugged, his response was laden with uncertainty. "I guess I just don't know if I can lead. It feels like a lot of pressure." "Pressure can lead to growth, trust me, I've been feeling it too. We're in this together, and you have a solid grasp on the practical side of things," Max assured, leaning forward, conviction resonating in his voice. "Let us work on a strategy to ease everyone into these changes." As the meeting progressed, more voices joined the conversation, fueling thoughts and ideas that danced around the room. Max felt the weight of their collective curiosity lift as each member contributed their perspectives. Still, doubt crept into every interaction. Would they find value in the shifts he was proposing? When the meeting concluded, Max was left with an unexpected sense of possibility. Yet, the pressure remained palpable. He caught murmurs of excitement and doubts intermingled with laughter among his team, a dynamic he hadn't witnessed before. Yet, with each shared idea came the underlying question: were they truly committed to moving forward, or merely accommodating the winds of change? That evening, Max sat at his desk, surrounded by the remnants of the day, a scatter of workshop notes, customer feedback forms, and a clipboard full of pending tasks. He found himself questioning whether his approach was too ambitious. With every conversation eliciting new ideas, a part of him wondered if this newfound empowerment would serve to unify or fracture their close-knit team. Through the layers of uncertainty, a deeper urge emerged. Max's commitment to fostering independence within the team had unearthed his desire to seek purpose beyond mere leadership. What if he, too, needed to assert his own version of growth to fully support his team? Faced with this epiphany, he understood that his own evolution mirrored theirs. It was time to confront what his role truly entailed, not just as a boss but as a mentor and a learner. The road ahead loomed like a winding path, each curve shrouded in fog, but he resolved to navigate it with intention. As he organized the scattered reminders of the day's discussions, a sudden realization shot through him. The essence of a strong leadership was rooted not in controlling every detail but in inspiring others to take charge of their destinies. The question pulsed in the air, a lingering uncertainty that beckoned recognition. Could he embrace this transformative role with sincerity, even if the shadows of self-doubt refused to dissipate? The moment of truth was approaching, and soon he would have to decide if he was ready to step fully into his new identity as a leader, or if he would allow past fears to constrain his potential. The morning sun streamed through the shop windows like a spotlight, illuminating Max's stirring momentum. Seated once again at his desk, he sensed an electric air around him. The preliminary conversations they'd had, filled with potential and trepidation, needed to become actionable strides. He couldn't let his doubts choke off the burgeoning enthusiasm they'd all displayed. Today, it would be different. His mind swirled in a whirlwind of plans, lists, and desires for his team. As he glanced at the clock, anticipation bubbled. Lisa's workshop was on the schedule, a new chapter unfolding for both her and the team. He urged her to step into leadership, and now, the time for her to shine had arrived. But had he done enough to foster her confidence, let alone his own? Max collected his thoughts, focusing on a strategy that could bolster not only the workshop but also his role as their leader. As the minutes ticked by, he pondered rhetorical questions about trust and support. If he didn't back them fully, how could they thrive? Each new responsibility carried risks, and he needed to shoulder the weight of his fears alongside them. As the clock struck 10, Lisa entered the shop, a set of notes clutched in her hand. Her eyes flickered with a blend of hope and anxiety. Max met her gaze with an encouraging smile, instinctively wanting to reassure her. "Ready?" he asked, standing up as he gestured for her to take the lead. "Absolutely," Lisa replied, her nerves rapidly transforming into a burst of enthusiasm. She cleared her throat, and the team gathered. Max remained close, aware that he was not just a spectator but a participant in the unfolding narrative. Lisa began. "Thanks, everyone, for being here. Today's workshop focuses on problem-solving skills, an essential part of what we do every day. I believe we can elevate our service and passion for our customers." Max couldn't help but admire her composure. The workshop structure flowed seamlessly, yet beneath the surface, he felt the flickering ember of doubt. What if the team dismissed her ideas? What if she faltered? The participants engaged with her. They bounced ideas back and forth, diving into how they could tackle issues more effectively. Positive energy radiated around the table, but Max silently questioned where he stood. Did he now sit sidelined, relegated to a mere role as an observer in this new dynamic? Was he truly prepared for this transition? As the workshop progressed and the atmosphere became increasingly collaborative, Max felt the urge to join in, guiding discussions more actively. "Let's create a scenario where we troubleshoot a customer complaint," he proposed. With each response from his team, he recognized their growth, and in turn, his own fears began to wane. But shadows of doubt still lingered. Later, in a quiet moment after the workshop, he overheard Lisa and Mark discussing feedback from their peers, assessing what worked and what needed improvement. Their candid conversations reflected accountability, and as Max listened, a sense of pride swelled within him. They were evolving, but was he doing enough? Worrisome thoughts spiraled as he pondered his role beyond logistics and support. Had he created a platform that empowered their ideas, or was he still a gatekeeper? The line blurred, and he felt the weight of his leadership responsibilities clash against his desire for collective autonomy. By the end of the day, an epiphany settled in Max's mind. The next steps had to be more than symbolic gestures. They required tangible actions and an unwavering commitment to embracing his own weakness while empowering others to rise. He knew change wouldn't be easy, and every conversation was a step into uncharted territory. The enactment of true empowerment meant confronting moments where he would need to share his insecurities, trusting his team to value authenticity over authority. That night, as he prepared for bed, he grappled with the looming question of tomorrow. How could he fully embrace the unseen weight of leading while allowing his team to navigate their own paths? The thought consumed him until his phone buzzed beside his pillow. A message blinked through. "Ready for our next steps? Let us prove we can do this together." Max hesitated, breath caught in his throat. The moment had arrived. Uncertain but resolved, he needed to respond and assert his commitment. This was more than leadership, it was about aligning his purpose with theirs, an endeavor defined by vulnerability and strength. His answer awaited. Would he be ready to send it? As dawn broke, illuminating the shop with golden light, Max felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through him. The manifestation of change was at hand. The workshop had been a turning point, a powerful testament to the potential that had been there all along. Within himself, he recognized the emergence of a man who could not only lead but also learn and grow alongside his team. He arrived early, filled with anticipation for what the day might unveil. A quick glance at his watch reminded him that today marked a critical convergence between his aspirations and the burgeoning ambitions of his team. Lisa walked in, confidence radiating from her as she brought a bundle of new ideas cultivated from their workshop. "Max, I've been thinking," she began, eager to share her thoughts. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and for the first time, he found himself entranced, taking a seat beside her rather than across the table as the corporate head. As they brainstormed, the dynamic conversation ignited a realization: collaboration was their ultimate strength, generating creative seeds that could blossom into practical solutions. Max watched her come alive. She was no longer merely a mechanic but a bearer of innovation. He felt a profound connection to the team growing, one that he had sought for so long yet had hesitated to cultivate due to his fears of inadequacy. When Mark entered, a hint of resolve matched the glimmer in Lisa's eyes. "What's brewing today?" he inquired, stretching the creases of his brow into a more relaxed expression. Max took a step back, watching as Lisa animatedly presented her new ideas, and as she invited Mark to join the conversation, he was struck by a deep sense of pride. They were collaborating without him standing at the helm, and it felt undeniably right. "You guys are onto something great," Max said, a genuine smile breaking across his face. "You're not just fixing cars, you're redefining how we do business here." He realized he was no longer solely about orchestrating change but about allowing others to shine. Their independence became the testament of his success. The joy of authenticity and leadership washed over him like tide against a worn shore, solidifying into something he scarcely dared to hope for. As the weeks progressed, new initiatives fired up: team-led troubleshooting sessions, workshops focused on personal development, and brainstorming meetings that were dynamic, inclusive, and genuinely hopeful. Max interlaced his visions with those of his team, weaving their insights into actionable strategies while ensuring every voice felt heard. The auto shop transformed into a thriving hub. Months of fears receded in the rearview mirror, reshaped by the resilience of his collaboration with Jenna and the team. The flow of shared ideas uplifted the morale while empowering each employee to take ownership of the legacy they were molding together. A few evenings later, Max found himself leaning against the cluttered workbench, basking in the rhythmic sounds of productivity echoing around him. The once chaotic environment had evolved into a symphony of laughter and camaraderie. Jenna walked in during a particularly vibrant discussion among the team, her expression a mixture of admiration and surprise. "Max, things look different in here," she remarked, scanning the room's new atmosphere. "I can feel the energy." He shrugged, a hum of bashfulness creeping up inside him. "It's not just me. It's all of us. We've created a community." "How does it feel?" she asked, genuinely invested. "Transformative," he said, clenching his fists in determination. The radiant light spilling through the windows seemed to reflect the way he felt inside: a man reborn from the ashes of his past, no longer defined by his failures, but by the legacy he was now nurturing. In that moment, the familiar knot of burdens from his previous life felt like shadows, threading memories through landscapes of regret. Yet here, intertwined within this thriving dynamic, he embraced a future layered with potential and growth. Brimming with confidence, Max took a seat, inviting discussion. He noted how far he'd come stepping boldly away from self-doubt. He had cultivated not only the business but also bonds of trust and integrity. In the heart of the bustling shop, beneath the noise of laughter and commotion, he'd found his purpose, a purpose anchored in connection, authenticity, and the reassurance that true leadership was rooted in mutual growth. As they concluded their meeting, a thoughtful silence enveloped the room, signaling a strong bond forged by effort and understanding. Max smiled at his team, gratitude washing through him. Together, they had conquered not just the challenges but had also proved that the strongest foundations are built through collaboration. Looking out over the shop, Max's heart swelled with pride. They weren't just mechanics anymore, they were visionaries positioned to change the narrative, a cohesive unit poised for a bright future. The journey was no longer merely about redemption for him, it was about planting seeds for a legacy worth honoring. He knew then that he had not merely overcome the shadows of his past, he had transformed them into stepping stones toward a remarkable future. You need to subscribe now to the channel for more exclusive emotional stories that inspire change and transformation. This is the moment to show your support, and by leaving a like now, you will help feed the algorithm that brings these impactful stories to more people. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It could change their lives. Comment below your reactions and theories about what the future holds for Max and Jenna.